Hello and welcome again to our session 3 India BIS license. This is the last session for the 3 series webinar started in November, and my name is Gagan. I'll be the presenter and moderating this session. So this session 3, what you booked and was primarily explaining on the cost that you would see for the BIS license, how you can budget and what sectors are affected, some tips, and I will wrap up. And then we have Q&A. We will have some questions from session 2, as I mentioned. Those are covered in the session 3. So we will spend some time in Q&A session that is also coming during this webinar. So once again, I welcome you all for this session 3. And let me introduce myself. I'll also switch on the camera. So this is me, Gagan Kumar. I'm from New Delhi. I work as a managing director of REACHLaw India Private Limited. This is a subsidiary of REACHLaw Finland. And I've been working in REACH and REACH-like regulations, product regulations since 2008. And I'm happy to share my experience and on this BIS specific topic. And I'll be speaking most of the time today. So this is related to the commercials, and then I will let Rashmi to introduce herself.
Thank you, Gagan, and welcome everyone. I am Rashmi Srivastava, working as a senior manager at REACHLaw India, and this is our final session of this webinar series. And in today's session, I will be providing a recap of key points of session 2, and will also addressing any questions you may have during the Q&A segment. So, thank you, and over to you, Gagan.
Thank you, Rashmi, and let's proceed with this session 3. And this is for the participants who are only joining for session 3. So we have started this session 1 on 12th of November, then session 2 on 19th. So we have some recap for these sessions. So I'll cover session 1, and Rashmi, as mentioned, will cover session 2 recap, and then I'll take you for the session 3 today. And what we intend to cover in session 3 is for the participants who are joining, who only registered for this session. And we have in fact received good questions for this session. I'll briefly introduce our company, and then we'll have a recap of session 1 and 2. And then starting with the overview, what are the costs associated if you are working or would like to work for the BIS license certificate in order to do business with India. So that is how we will, and then we have some example which will help you understand what kind of budget and how you have to prepare the budget for your company depending upon the products that you intend to sell to India. And we will also cover what kind of products in general are in scope. So even though we have mentioned and covered this in the previous sessions, but I will also be covering them again. And then some tips to manage these costs efficiently, and I'll wrap up, and we have then Q&A. So this is today, and some practical information is that we have this chat function on GoToWebinar. So please use this to send questions to us during this session. And we have some questions that we have received at the time of registration, which we will of course uh, answer first. So we will cover this in this webinar, and then this recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel. So you can always go and check this recording later on if you are unable to participate during this entire session, or you would like to recommend to some other colleagues or contacts. Please feel free to share this link. and also send us your feedback if you think we can improve these sessions for future talks. So let's start on this part. So I will start with our company introduction. So REACHLaw, as a company, we are focusing on market access services, especially uh, evolving around chemicals and product regulations, specifically REACH and REACH-like regulations that are affecting companies, and these are evolving regulations. So it's also important to see and monitor changes in these regulations that may affect your business. So we are offering these services from our locations. So for example, we are located from New Delhi, India, and the focus is the India BIS on the regulatory side, which is a product regulations. And then we have Reach as at the moment it's not in force, but we will definitely providing this services if it is coming in force in future. Then our head office is in Helsinki, where we are actively participating and monitoring developments in Reach. So this is where we operate. And then other countries for UK at Manchester, and we have also office in Brussels. In Turkey, we are based in Istanbul. We in fact have participating in an event this week. So if you are happen or your colleagues are traveling to the fair, we would be happy to meet you there. So it's TurkChem tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Our team is we are exhibiting there, and this is for, of course, Turkey, KKDIK, and REACH like regulation in Turkey. And then we also operate in Seoul for K-Reach and Kosha services. And recently we are also operating from Kyiv, Ukraine, for an upcoming regulation on Ukraine Reach, which is coming, and actions are required starting next year. So this is us in brief. And this is the market access services which are affecting products, chemical products, and other kind of products which are coming under the scope of these regulations. On your right hand side, all these regulations we cover, and based on the requirements, we of course have representation services where companies needs to have a representation to apply for their own registration. So this is all local regulations of the countries. You need to have local presence. So this is the main service that we offer to the companies present and want to do business. Then starting from registration and all authorization, the complex advocacy and support requiring is also covered. It's a full suite of services we offer starting, and then we have all product related regulations. Is BIS is one of them. We will see in the next slide what kind of support we offer. And then we have other programs, services. So I would recommend you to please visit our website to find more information, as we are developing services which I think would be in use in this and coming years. So I would request to visit our website and subscribe to our news so you can receive these informations also on your emails. Coming to the India BIS, this is the where we are operating is New Delhi, which is also the house of the authority. The BIS authority is also based out of New Delhi, and this is for the foreign manufacturers that we provide services is basically the authorized India representative. We have covered this scope in previous sessions. So this is the services mandatory for foreign manufacturers to apply for the license, and then for domestic companies also requiring the similar license, the same support on the applications. Now the audit support, so the factory audit support is important if you are uh, unaware of this process, how this is taking place, and you would like somebody to assist with the BIS inspector, is something which we also offer. And then all related to the product testing, scoping, if you have any advocacy support that you need from us to handle BIS related work for the existing licenses or upcoming licenses. So everything, feel free to contact us, and we will be happy to provide these services. And of course, training for companies looking to enhance knowledge in-house to handle these license work. by yourself. So this is about the services, and we of course specialize in this regulatory compliance, advocacy, and sustainability. That's our slogan. And this is the REACHLaw Talks. So on YouTube, you can find we have around 100 videos, which you can always refer at any time. And this is also being updated with some other talks that coming up from our experts. So feel free to visit this channel to get more insights and updates. And in addition to this, I also mentioned the last session is to subscribe to our newsletter, which is on LinkedIn. And if you are having a LinkedIn then account, then I would require that to subscribe to our newsletter, which is also kind of providing more updates and quick updates for you if the changes are happening. So, and it's free of charge. So please subscribe to those newsletter, and you can always provide feedback on those. So with this, I will also be covering this disclaimer as a standard process. All this responsibility and risk lies with the reader, and no representations and warranties are made on the completeness and accuracy of these presentations. And then we have standard copyright. So this is something which we respect companies to follow. So starting with the recaps, I will cover the session one. The session one was primarily on the basics of BIS. So as it said, and then as I mentioned, its recording is available now, so you can always go and it's I think more than 1 hour recording, so take your time to go through this. But what we cover is we cover introduction of BIS. So what BIS is all about this objective, and it's a product regulation, meaning they are related to the quality aspect they are covering, and it's a product standards that they are trying to enforce with the quality control orders, which is a regulation in itself. And then we covered how these regulations are linked to each other, which is the main legislation or regulation that you need to follow when you are working on this certification. So this is what it covers. Then what is certification, like meaning that what types of BIS certifications are there and what is applicable to your company. We focused on scheme one, which is an ISI mark scheme, which requires mandatory requirement or to have a certification to do business with India. And what is the scope that we covered in this session? As I mentioned in the beginning, I will be also highlighting the products that are in scope also today briefly. But this is something scoping is, I think, important aspect for any company to, because your products are not listed with the specific identifier that you have, either a cash number or HS codes, which is difficult for companies to understand. And sometimes a straightforward product, but sometimes it's a complex product. So it's always good to have a scoping done before you can do the budgeting for your company. And then of course you need to alert your business team, marketing team, and see when you are getting to have a license, so that your business and there will be no disruptions for your sales to India. Then specific to the foreign manufacturers or domestic manufacturers, what is applicable? Of course, there are certain more requirements on the foreign manufacturers located outside, having plants outside India. And when timelines on the BIS certification specific to this quality control orders, QCO, being a product regulation, all products have a different deadlines. So in a calendar 12 months, we have several deadlines if you have different products manufactured in different sites. So this is important to understand these timelines. Then what impacts and penalties are there if you do not comply with this, and what it will, of course, you will not be able to do business with India. But then if you don't do this compliances, what will be the penalties? Then the mandatory requirement for foreign manufacturers is, of course, authorized India representative. You need somebody, and this is, we mentioned, is a person, is an individual. It is not an entity. And this is a mandatory requirement that you have a person there, individual person, to manage your license, and of course for till you do business, you need to have an active license and active AIR to manage your business with India. So this is an important selection that we covered, how to select, what are the criterias, and it's an important recommendations that is coming from us on the contractual side that you should consider with handling this professionally. And then challenges we covered, of course. AIR appointment is a good time spent, but it helps in the future handling of your license. Then what kind of documentation terms as complex because it requires a lot of information at the first place, which is audited at the inspection stage. And then what timeline and what kind of QCOs are upcoming, and several new standards are being drafted and I would say getting implemented after comments from the industry. So it's important to see that what product once standards are ready, then QCO work will start. So it's always linked to that framework. So that's important to monitor both Indian standards and QCOs. So with this, I will go to session two. If Rashmi, you would like to cover this, and thank you.
Yes, thank you, Gagan. So the second session was more towards understanding the process and requirement to secure the BIS license. So we broadly understood like what are the steps of license. We divided these steps into five major steps, which was application preparation, on-site audit, a grant of license, marking and labeling, and then renewal. So we also tried to understand some pre-application requirement, like we try to understand whether we have identified the correct Indian standard to ensure that we are applying for the correct product. We also mentioned that we should have this advanced testing of the product in any Indian BIS accredited lab to ensure that our product will comply with the testing in later when audits happen. We also try to understand other requirements like packaging and labeling, and also all the manufacturing activities happening at the manufacturing premises. So see, some pre-application consideration we tried to understand in the previous session. Also, we discussed more about the product testing requirement, like what testing requirements will be done during the audit. So we discussed about the optional and mandatory requirements, and we also discussed like from where we can identify the all test requirements are coming from. So Indian standard and product manuals were the documents we discussed in more, and where one can identify, and other requirements during the testing like presence of the QC person and calibration reports and all. So this was discussed for the product testing. Then we discussed in detail about the application preparation, what all documents are required. So BIS has some set of formats where one has to provide the information, and it starts with the basic application form along with supporting documents like providing the details of test equipments and manufacturing machinery, plant layout. So all such documents were required. And we also discussed about the what happens during the audit, the on-site audit. So it is generally for 2 man days, and where there's some testing happens, factory testing happens, and all the machineries, manufacturing machineries are also verified. So these were the important key points which we discovered under step by step. Then we also discussed more about the post license compliance. So we discussed about account creation, which is very important. So after grant of license, there is an online portal which is Manak Online, where the licensee has to create an account, and every time they are sending the shipment mark with the ISI mark, they have to enter the details over there. And we also saw some rejections and non-conformities, so how we can address those. uh, like major one were incomplete application form. So in case you have an incomplete application form, there are chances of rejection, but we can always apply for the second application with the second application. So it is recommended that we review the guidelines properly and prepare the document correctly and submit to BIS. and there is no limitation. One can, even if we have a rejection, we can reapply for the application. Second situation which we saw was non-compliance to the test methods. So in case the test methods are not complying to the Indian standard, then one can approach BIS correct authority and can request for the accommodation of this international test methods in the Indian standard and other adjustments accordingly. Also, we discussed about payment of application fee. So all the fees like application fee, marking fee, all this fee has to be paid timely so that we avoid the rejection. And uh, more about on-site audit, like factory inspection, we have to see that factory is in the running condition during the audit. So these were the major situations which we discussed to avoid any rejection. Then we saw best license renewal and modification. So renewal, initial license is granted for 1 year, and then it can be further renewed. So renewal can be applied before 3 months the expiry of the existing license. And we also try to understand about the surveillance which happens during the validity of license. So BIS may request for the sample submission to BIS lab to check and identify whether the product coming to India is compliant or not. And then we also saw how to maintain the license and AIR change. So license maintenance is like a timely renewal, and if you are having any change at your site, then timely communication to BIS. So all those things to keep the license valid. And also during this validity of license, if there is a change of AIR, then how one can inform BIS. So there is a same nomination, using the same nomination form, one can again appoint a new AIR and can inform BIS about the change. And then we also discussed some case studies. So we discussed two case studies. One was where the manufacturer was not complying to the test methods and equipments. So in that case, the manufacturer has to approach the correct authority in BIS, and this justification was submitted, like why they are unable to comply to the Indian standard. So this was their the country's obligation that they cannot perform those test methods mentioned in the Indian standard. And later with the there were meetings with the committee, technical committee and stakeholders. Lot of discussion happened, and with final justification, the international test methods were accommodated in the Indian standard. So in this case, the Indian standard was revised. The second case was where the manufacturer was using a separate premises for packaging, meaning a third party packaging unit was used, and the ISI mark labeling was not to be done at the same premises. So BIS defines that manufacturing premises means that right from procurement of raw material to till this final activity of marking and labeling should happen in the same premises, which the manufacturer were not complying to, and this was due to their country infrastructure challenge. So here again there was a lot of discussion about this, and the manufacturer using has to approach the correct authority, and where they try to establish the best try to understand the traceability part, like how the material moving from manufacturing premises to the packaging unit. So once this was established, the BIS tried to accommodate, and they revised the product manual, making a provision wherein this packaging unit will be specifically packing this material for the manufacturing manufacturer, and a separate license will be required for the packaging unit. So this was change in the product manual, and this way this request was accommodated. Then we saw some recent update in BIS licensing process. So recently BIS has started granting license for 1 year only. Earlier it was for 2 years, up to 2 years, but now it is coming with the 1 year validity only, and then one has to renew again. Then acceptance of digital signature is there, making it easier for the manufacturer to apply the application. And also BIS is revising many standards. So there is a revision of standards happening, and also they have extended like many testing facilities are being like approved by the BIS for the testing of sample. So these are some recent changes in the process by BIS. So this was a quick recap from the session 2, and I will again pass it to Gagan. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashmi, for the recap. It was quite useful and covering. So it's good to, if people wants to see and more understand. So please follow this recording again. So coming to this session, I will talk about this overview of the cost associated with the BIS license. Excuse me. So on the BIS license, we have starting with this on the right hand side, if you see this communication. So this communication is something which is coming from the BIS, and this is starting when you submit your application. So this application fee is the first fee which is paid in advance, and you will see all the fee figures in the coming slides. But understanding the application fee is paid in advance, of course it's non-refundable, and it's per application, so meaning per license. And once you submit your application, of course you have to follow the data requirements that we covered in session 2. Once you made the submission, you will basically kind of wait and follow up, and then all kind of so that you get this milestone completed, that you get a notification from BIS on the inspection. So this right hand side is a kind of communication which you are seeing on your screen. May not be too much clear on the screen, but this is saying that now you have to pay for the inspection charges. And this is also saying that uh, preliminary inspection is for 2 man days, and they will mention it's like next month your inspection is scheduled, and BIS is nominating inspectors all over India. So it's not that from New Delhi an inspector is coming. They may be stationed at New Delhi, but they might be deputed from other regional offices in India of BIS. So this is something, a coordination and everything happens that we discussed also in the session 2 on the operation side. But this is where the fees are coming, is the inspection fee, which is again an advance fee, and you are paying all the charges if you're a foreign manufacturer in US dollars. So this is starting with the, we will cover these fees in the next slide as I mentioned, but to understand this, an advance fee, again non-refundable. It's per product, meaning per Indian standard, and then per manufacturing site. So this is basically how it is calculated. And if you have, let's say, two sites in the same location, few kilometers, 100 kilometers apart, let's say, then you may like to club this inspection, which is also possible to reduce the cost, and also saves time for you to get the license for the two sites if you want to use both the sites for selling to India from logistics purpose. But if this let's say site is quite far and you need to travel by air or by train, then also it can be clubbed provided the inspector has the schedule. So this everything should be done in a way that your application is coming for the similar sites, or let's say you have all the sites in France or Germany or in US. So all the states, then if they are possible to reach in a 1 day trip, then you possibly should club it. So this is something important. So this is the inspection fee, which you will see and will be coming from the BIS. So BIS communicates this, and then you have to pay this. Without this communication, please don't make any payments. Then the next is the marking fee. It is again an important fee to have this marking, which is an ISI mark that you need to put on your labels that we mentioned again in session 2, how it will apply and where you have to mark, put this mark on your product packaging. But this is again the email that you will receive, and you always get this fee as a minimum marking fee, and this is kind of mentioned in Indian rupees. So you have to pay, convert this into the US dollars. And this marking fee you have to pay along with the annual fee. So this is paid along with the annual fee. So again, the annual fee is mentioned is 100,000 Indian rupees, which you have to again pay in equivalent US dollars. So all the payments will be paid to this bank account, electronic transfer to the BIS bank account. But these are all base fees and marking fees advance specific to the product, again non-refundable. And so the when you get the license, the first time you get the license, this is calculated based on the minimum marking fee, because authority doesn't know how much business you intend to do with India for that product. So once you have the license, in the following years, this fee you have to pay based on the actual exports to India, and it is calculated based on the value, the quantity that you export. So we will see this also briefly in the next slides, how this is calculated when I show you the example. So this is the marking fee. Then this slide is important to understand what are the costs associated with the BIS license, and this is the only authority fees. It doesn't include if you want to hire a consultant to support you with the license, so you have to add the consultant fees over and above these charges. So stage wise, if we see, it's an application stage, so it's only the application fee which is fixed, and you are paying in US dollar equivalent 15 US dollars. So important to understand the remarks is that all your fees that you are paying to BIS, you will not get any invoice or purchase orders. So you have to see whether your country or taxation or the compliance allows to do this. Otherwise, you have to find some consultant or partner to handle these payments on your behalf, which you can trust. And so this is something to consider. And before grant of license, that as I mentioned is the inspection fee, the second inspection fee, and this will be communicated by email. Again, it's a fixed and variable. So fixed is basically is a per diem expenses. So generally for 3 days, and it's a $300 per day. So this is something which you need to consider. It's like $900 in total. Then you have fixed charges of the visit, which is $500. Contingency fund is also you need to pay, and it was all mentioned in the email which you just saw. And then you also need to pay charges towards the airfare and visa, and then consider some budget for local travel that you need to also assist inspector for the logistics from the visit. So this is somewhere $3,000 to $4,000, and this varies because of the country, and that's why it's variable. So if the country is in, let's say, in Europe or US, then this is the kind of fees. But if you are in Asia, then neighboring countries, then this could be some lower because of these airfares, and would be lower. So this is something on the variable side, but you will receive this fee from the BIS, and then you have to basically pay it in advance, and then after that they start the process and licensing with the inspector to understand the application, whether there are any gaps in your application is addressed during this phase. So they will check your application, start this discussion already now, because they have very less time when they are at your site, and it's impossible for you to make any changes to the documents. The authorized signatory may not be available, and you need some decisions. You have certain hierarchy in your company. For that document you cannot issue on your own. So this is important that you align with them and understand if there are any gaps with your applications specific to the entire set that you have submitted. And once they kind of on the understanding of the documents are complete, then it's just a physical visit to see that how these documents are developed, who has developed, and those kind of checks is much easier. So I recommend to have this prior to your visit when they are coming, and handle this, so have some time for that, because there are always gaps, and always understanding inspector to inspector varies. Of course, they follow the standard guidances mentioned in the standards of product manuals, but still it is very much dependent upon that person. So this is our recommendations. Then you have sample testing fee, which is again paid to the BIS lab, not BIS authority, but to the designated lab in India, which is some other entity. So this payment is going to this entity, and it is variable because product testing may vary as per the standard. So this is an estimate that we have provided to you, but this can vary. And you can always get this fee from, let's say, if you have a product, you can always check and communicate with and these labs are open and in public, so you can always get a quote what will be this testing if you have several products that you want to apply for license. So this could be also good to budget. Then the fourth is advance minimum marking fee, which I mentioned the another email that you saw, is again variable. It's depending upon the product, and so $1,200 is what is coming, and it's a first year marking fee. The second year it will be different, and it could be based on the actual shipment that you record. And each product has a rate, is a unit rate, which is defined in the BIS website, and also based on the standard, you can always find your unit rate. What is your marking unit rate for your product? Based on this rate, you have to multiply your quantity, actual quantity. Maybe it's several, let's say 5,000 tons or 500 metric tons, and sometimes unit rate might be different. So this you need to calculate yourself what will be your budget for the annual marking fees after you pay this marking fee for the first year for getting the license. And this is automatically calculated from the portal that you saw in the session 2. And then you have a nominal annual fee which you pay along with the advance marking fee. This is $1,500. So these are the all the fees that you pay uh, before you get your license, and this is what you can budget. uh, After the license, you have the fee, which is kind of renewal fees. So these are nominal, as you see, the $15, then annual fee of $15. Marking fee is again an actual fee, variable, meaning that it is depending upon your product. Then if you have certain grades that you want to include, and you probably it's coming from the business that more and more products you want to add, and certain Indian standards allows you to cover several grades in one license, so you don't have to pay again. So it's a one license which covers several grades. So that is in future you can always include this by paying $60, and you have a set application that you have to follow, and then your license will include these grades, which you can of course mark and then use once you have the license for those grades. So please don't use those grades on the same marking or ISI mark if these are not covered in your license application. So these are like best practices, and we must follow those. Then lab testing fees, again, if you have certain variable, like it's variable cost, but it's inclusion of the grades, then they would like to do some testing to ensure that these grades fits to some kind of nomenclature, or let's say the criteria which is defined in the Indian standard. So the testing is then required again the BIS designated or recognized laboratory in India. And then the last is this performance bank guarantee, which is an extended because it's not the cost for you, but it's a bank guarantee. It is between the bank, which we discussed last session. So this is also to be renewed. So I mentioned this here is that you need to renew this before 6 months. So the license renewal date. So they have to have a 6 months additional validity of this guarantee. So that is important. Then understanding the example that basically how much it will cost you if you, let's say, have a one product which for which you require an ISI mark. It's a mandatory requirement, and then you have one manufacturing site. The site could be either in Europe or in US. So understanding from the previous slide, you have an application fee, then you have before grant of license inspection fee, sample testing fee, advanced marking fee, and annual license fee. So this is how, based on this unit rate, the $15 and then $300, $500, $120, and $4,000 is what you can budget. This is again per product per site budget. And then you have advanced marking fee of $1,200, sample testing fee $1,000, annual license fee $15. So somewhere it is bringing your cost of license just for the BIS is $8,000, which is per product per site. Then if you have more sites, more products, then you have to make this budget accordingly. But this is what you can consider while budgeting. And if you want to use consultant, then you have to also add that cost, whatever is the cost. So that is brings you the total budget that you have to consider for this compliance. And then annual fee is based on the previous slide. You can budget. It's a nominal fee, but you should budget this. And then this is basically your cost of compliance for the BIS license for ISI mark scheme 1. Then the sectors that are affected, this is a repeat slide for those who have attended session 1, but this is on the product category like chemicals. It's a category at the BIS website, scheme 1, chemicals, fertilizers, polymers, textile. Then you have infrastructure materials, consumer goods, industrial goods, and textile. So wherever you think you have business with India, please consider and check, do the scoping first. And if you think that you find your chemicals or products, articles like you see on this screen, then you should basically start preparing for this because it directly impacts your business. So please work this in advance and do the scoping is again very important because you have to go through the standard before you conclude that you need the license. Then the other product categories which are recently included, very recently is also mentioned here, is household commercials, electrical appliances, hand tools, then Indutech, this textile, basically flat webblings and ropes and cordages. This is also like under textiles, and then solar thermal system. So this is where it's coming from the regular monitoring. You will not get communications, but you have to monitor through several portals to see that whether your businesses are getting affected, how many new standards are coming up, and whether you will see a quality control order for your product. So this requires a good monitoring so that you can basically manage your risks for this compliance, meeting these compliances for to do conduct successful business in India. Then some tips, I maybe talked about this during my, but I will specifically, I have a slide for this. So understanding the cost, I think the cost is important for you to understand. I hope my presentation brings more clarity on the components and how you have to budget. But this starting with the application fee, inspection fee, testing fee, marking fee, renewal fees, and then this is how you need to use to budget and timeline. But timeline is also important. If you have a complex, then you need a more time to set your project, and you have to also allot some person at your site, dedicated person to manage this. And if you think then this is a kind of completely new thing for you, let's say the inspection is something new, then and also the application and handling authorities or relationship with the authorities in India, then you can of course outsource this to professionals to handle these applications and managing the licenses, maintenance. Also this speed up your process, so you save your time, and of course this is something which you need to consider is educating your resources so they know, even they meet talk to consultants, they know how they have to talk and how they have to organize this work internally, and so that they can manage these projects. So so it's a added task, but you can make some changes to your profile, and this is something to consider. Having this kind of basic training is important. Then factory inspection, as I mentioned, inspection in advance, and then club your inspections. Handle this inspections process with the inspector. Don't wait for him to come and then check your applications. So they do it proactively. but then you are also encouraged to discuss this with them, and they generally prefer to call the AIR, and they always call them. They will not call you, they will call them and understand how they have to proceed. So the AIR must have you have a mechanism to handle this kind of process, and usually AIRs are not they are always dependent on your input. So this is something that the consultant can fulfill this requirement, and they can handle this kind of discussions prior to their visit. So this is like major milestone to get your license, is to have the successful inspection done. Then ensuring compliance is to adhere with the Indian standard. Even you have a good standard, uh, maybe Indian standard, maybe let's say not meeting the full requirement, but you have to adhere with the Indian standard. You do not basically have an option to consider the existing standards of your country, because you are applying for a license for a standard linked to the Indian scheme. So this is important that you have to follow carefully this requirement, and product manuals are also important. This is more of a, let's say, technical guidance or practical guidance document to handle entire application inspection and post maintenance. So this is something, but not available for all the products. Wherever it is available, we recommend to follow this also. Then reducing your non-compliances, avoiding re-inspection, as Rashmi was mentioning. Delays, avoid delays in communication, because inspectors would are looking for quick feedback so that they can plan your inspection. Otherwise, they will say that okay, we will I will inform BIS to depute some other inspector, and since he has some other inspections lined up after your inspection. So timelines are very important, and then as I mentioned, following BIS updates is also important. Verifying testing, it's a like pre-application, which we also covered in session 2, is important tips you should consider. It will of course help in efficient cost, is to pre-test, do the correct sampling, so that and do some kind of testing, so that the quality manager is aware of that these testing will be repeated. Uh, it's a kind of drill for them to see that what will actually happen is a kind of pre-audit. You can plan always with your consultants or in-house, then it will help you to handle these inspections. Then perform mandatory testing is again kind of useful. And any renewal application is always important for you to maintain this license 3 to 4 months. You can always have the reminders to start this. Of course, communication from BIS will come, and then avoid the late fees, because it's always encouraged that you are in time and work as a responsible player in the market. So these are all some of the, I would say, the tips for managing biz cost efficiently. Then I will wrap up this session with some takeaways. So starting with this, I think study these requirements well. I think, as I mentioned, a dedicated person is required to monitor this for you, so that you know how to handle this business with India, and then ensure complete and timely submission. A quality application is very important. It's not that inspector will check and then you can work out with inspectors what are the gaps. To have a good reputation right at the beginning is to have a good quality application. Of course, if you have challenges, these can be discussed with BIS, but try to see that you have a good quality application, which is also important for authorities to see that you are adhering to this requirements right at the first place. Then selection and the appointment, what kind of contracts you are using with the AIR, and how you are selecting, what kind of criteria you are applying. All these things are not mentioned, and you will not find in the regulation, because it's a contractual requirement between you and the AIR. So it's something which you need to decide, and it's important that you follow these recommendations. But it is up to you how you are planning to do this. Then prepare well for the inspections. This is also, I think, important. Avoid rejections, conformities, non-conformities, and renewal and surveillance is happening all the time. And surveillance, I would say good communication and coordination is required so that you pass the surveillance whenever it occurs in annually. It is announced, but then it is something that required less time to communicate and react. So timely renewal and surveillance is important. Then strategic escalation is what we discussed, I think, in the case studies in this second session, that you need to really be on your toes that if this is not working out, then which is the right contact that you have to approach and how you have to approach for your case so that it doesn't have the impact on the business, because salespeople really do not understand these situations, and you are in a fix which how to solve this problem to get the sales going. So this is something important, and of course, meeting authorities, understanding how they are working is important in India. So this is some of the, I think, key takeaways. And please stay informed and be responsive for handling this work, because authorities' communications are one-sided, and if you want to check and get clarification, then you are stuck. So you need somebody really to coordinate and get your answers so that you can work on your applications and future maintenance. So this is something which I would recommend you to consider. So with this, I think we are coming to the Q&A. So let me place the Q&As, which are, then I'll come back to the live Q&A. I think we have some minutes. I'm think, but we will see that we will cover these questions and answers. So these are some of the questions which are covered. I think I will see that some of the questions maybe Rashmi can take up. So the first one is saying that they missed the session one, but is there any regulatory requirements for the BIS for importing a chemical mixture? So they are specifically talking about mixture. Does this business needs to do this complete process? The mixture is sap bead, which absorbs ethylene glycol and forms into ball. If so, what is the standard and is applicable? So, Rashmi, would you like to take this up?
Yeah, sure. So for mixtures, actually BIS generally applies to the pure form of chemicals, and for mixtures, if it's like BIS may not apply, but it is recommended that one should do the proper scoping to confirm the applicability of this compliance. And if we talk about ethylene glycol specifically, then yes, this is falling under the mandatory license, and if you are exporting this to India, then you need to apply for license, and the specific Indian standard is 5295/2023 version.
Okay, thank you. So essentially, the mixture is that if you are selling this as such, then and it is not in this ISI, then you don't need to have license. Then, uh, do you know how manufacturers can have an opportunity to provide input on the standard development? So I think it's a good question. If you can, Rashmi, throw some light here.
Yes, BIS has this provision. So manufacturer can submit their input either by becoming a member of technical committee or by submitting the comments when the revised standard or the new standard is in wide circulation for comments. So BIS has a portal through which one can apply for this membership, and once you are the member of that committee, you can participate in the meeting, technical meetings, stakeholder meetings, and can provide your comments.
Okay, thank you. Then what happens if the product testing during an inspection fails? During inspection fails testing. So I think this is again for you, Rashmi.
Yeah, in such cases, it is likely that sample will not be withdrawn, and the inspector may be issuing a non-compliance and discrepancy report, which is DVR, to the applicant, and then most likely BIS will be asking the justification for the same, and maybe they will reconduct the inspection once this issue or discrepancy is resolved.
Thank you. I think we have again exceeding this 45 minutes duration, but I still want to cover these questions because it was mentioned in the second session that we will cover all of these. Um, then, when do manufacturers and Indian importers to India need to start complying with BIS? Are these standards mandatory? So I think I can take this up. The manufacturers in India and importers do not need to apply for license. Please follow this session that only foreign manufacturer needs to apply, not your Indian importer. They can only import if you have the license as foreign manufacturer. So only manufacturers, whether domestic or foreign, can only apply for the license under BIS. But assuming that it's a foreign manufacturer, then of course, if your products are listed in this ISI scheme one, which is on the list that we mentioned and displayed earlier, then of course it's a mandatory requirement that you have to apply before the deadline, and deadline is in the quality control orders, and it's a different deadline for different products. So please follow this quality control order and see when is your deadline, or has it already passed. Then it means that you cannot place until you have the license. And 6 months you need to consider for the overall process. So please consider this while deciding here. Then question 5, are the data requirements for the products depend on the relevant registration ministry? Answer is no. The ministry generally takes control of the quality control orders, that what product regulations they need to implement considering the country. And then the data requirements will always be coming from the BIS, and this is the same for any product, for any ministry that is uh, implementing this QCO. So data requirements remain same. However, the testing under this data requirements, you have to basically report testing and all kind of equipment that will vary based on the standard. So this is something to consider. Then number 6, does AIR change to be notified through only a physical form submission in the BIS office or through email attachment as well? So Rashmi, if you can take this up, please.
Yes, so this AIR change can be notified in the both the ways. Either a physical form can be submitted, or it can be mailed to BIS with the using the license number in the communication. So one has to again use the same AIR nomination form and provide the details of new AIR and can submit either way to the BIS, and BIS will acknowledge and notify the change. So there will be a proper communication from BIS notifying that they have acknowledged this change in their system.
Okay, thank you for this. Then I'll go to the next slide, going with these questions. The question 7 is, do complex industrial products like pumps, engines need BIS license? How are they affected? Any environmental requirements? So Rashmi, if you can take this up. I think it's a specific case, but if the answer is incomplete or you require more discussions, please contact us separately so we can advise here better. Rashmi.
Yeah, so for this pumps, in 2023, there was a draft QCO for pump which was notified by the relevant ministry, and which included 12 products, which was circulated to the relevant ministry for consultation and stakeholders for their comments. But so far, we understand that it is still in the draft QCO stage, and this confirmation is still pending, and it's not been included in the mandatory licensing, which is scheme 1. So as of now, this is the information about the QCO of pumps.
Okay, so it's important to follow this development, and I think you can always go for a voluntary license if the standard is available to save on your time. There is no harm in doing that if business allows. Then point number 8, why was the validity period of BIS license shortened from 2 years to 1 year? Do ISO standards take precedence over IS norms, Rashmi?
Change in validity period is a recent change by BIS, and they have reduced the timeline to better monitor the performance of licensed product, streamline the surveillance and other activities by BIS. So it's for better monitoring only. And Indian standards are formulated by BIS, and ISO standards may be adopted or referred within IS norm to align with the international best practices.
Okay, thank you. Then question 9, is there some volume limit for which this license doesn't apply? For example, less than 1 ton per year? The answer is no. This is a product regulation. It doesn't depend upon your volume. So if your products are listed in the scheme 1, which is the mandatory certification requirement, ISI mark scheme, then you need to apply for the license. There is no escape. Either you do business with India or you don't do business with India, and you have to have arrangements if that their people are producing and using, then you need to consider how to meet this gap. Otherwise, it will go to the competition. So number 10, if you supply a product or product range subject to BIS license, is it mandatory to obtain the license? Yes, it is mandatory to obtain the license if your product is listed in the scheme 1 and ISA mark, then it's yes. The answer is yes. Then 11 question is more about probably if you have how and what type of products is under BIS regulation and how to comply with this. So it's something we covered in these 3 sessions. And if you think you still need more clarifications and understanding on this regulation requirement, you can always contact us separately. So with this, I thank you for all these questions, good questions. Now I will take a couple of them from the chat box that we received today. One of them is, give me a second, I'll just open it up on my screen. Okay, so this is something related to the testing. Is there an official list of best certified laboratories in India? And you have mentioned certain product which is SBR latex, and specifying this product you are looking for whether there is so Rashmi, would you like to answer this one?
Yes, this information is public. You can check, like BIS has this Know Your Product tab on their official website. So, using your product Indian standard name like 11356 Part 1, you can check the details, and there will be a tab for the lab also where you can click and can find what all labs from India are accredited under BIS for this product.
Thank you. This was useful for the audience, I think. And then we have on the renewal, to renew each year the BIS license, does it require to pass again all the steps? I can take this up, and if Rashmi you think you want to add. So answer is no. You don't have to go through all the steps over and again. It's just that you have to fill a form and apply for the renewal, paying the fee and marking fee, and that's it. So it's not that it's more of, I think, not so much technical work. It's more of an admin and finance part. So this is how you will go for renewal. Answer to your question is no. And then the last question of this webinar is that related to again testing. Advanced testing at BIS lab can be done before applying certification application as well. So Rashmi.
Yes, if you are planning to apply for the BIS license and want to ensure if your product is compliant to Indian standard, then you may select the particular lab which is performing this testing for this particular standard, and you can request a lab for this testing and can send sample, and you can always get it done in advance.
Good. Yeah, this is also what we have mentioned in this session, all earlier session. So with this, I will once again thank you for patiently staying with us, even though it has exceeded a couple of minutes. But once again, I would like to thank you all, and stay safe, and please feel free to connect with us if you have additional questions. These are the contact details, and I would like to thank everyone again.